Welcome back to Void of Fears. Before we jump into today's story, I've got to ask for a quick favour. If you could smash that like button, drop a comment below, and hit subscribe if you haven't already. It seriously makes a huge difference. YouTube's algorithm loves that stuff, and it pushes my videos to new viewers who might dig these stories too. I really appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to do that. It means the world to me and helps keep this channel growing. Alright, enough of me rambling. Let's dive into today's story. The launch was perfect. Commander William Hartley, callsign Butch, had been flying for 23 years. First jets, then experimental aircraft, and finally spacecraft. He'd seen 3 sunrises from orbit before, but the view never got old. Beside him, pilot Katherine Sullivan adjusted her restraints and ran through the post-launch checklist with the kind of calm precision that came from a decade of training. Aurora, this is Houston. All systems nominal. You are go for ISS rendezvous in 47 hours. Copy that, Houston, Kate replied, her voice steady, living the dream up here. It was supposed to be 8 days. A simple certification flight for Boeing's new Aurora spacecraft. Dock at the International Space Station, run some tests, come home. Kate had promised her daughter Sophie she'd be back before her 7th birthday. Butch had promised his sister he'd finally make it to her wedding in August. Those promises died on day 3. The first thruster failed during the approach sequence, then another. Helium leaks cascaded through the propulsion system like dominoes falling. The Aurora limped into dock, her navigation systems flickering, her return capability shot to hell. Aurora, Houston, we're scrubbing the return flight. Repeat, scrubbing return flight. You'll come home with the next SpaceX rotation. Kate's hand tightened on the comm switch. Houston, when's the next rotation? A pause, too long. 9 months, Aurora. We're sorry. That was June 8th, 2024. By day 12, they'd settled into the routine. The International Space Station was cramped, noisy, and uncomfortable, but it was home for now. Butch recorded his daily logs. Kate video called Sophie 3 times a week, and they both tried not to think about the birthdays and weddings and normal life happening 300 miles below. The hardest part, Butch told the camera on day 12, his weathered face filling the frame, is watching Katie talk to Sophie. Kid keeps asking when Mummy's coming home, and Katie has to keep saying soon, sweetie, soon. Makes you realise what we give up for this. Day 47 began like any other. Butch was in the Japanese experiment module, helping Dr. Chen with a protein crystal growth study. Kate was scheduled for a routine EVA to replace a faulty antenna array. The station's 9 crew members moved through their tasks with practiced efficiency. Then, at 11:34 p.m. Eastern Time, everything went silent. Butch was floating near the communication console when the displays flickered and died. Not just one system, all of them. Every frequency, every satellite link, every ground station from Houston to Moscow to Munich. Houston, this is ISS, we've lost comm, acknowledge. Silence. Houston ISS, come in. Nothing. Any ground station, this is International Space Station. We have lost all communications. Please acknowledge. The silence that answered was absolute. Commander Yuki Tanaka, the station's actual commander, ordered an immediate check of all systems. For 6 hours, 9 astronauts floated through narrow corridors, checking every antenna, every transmitter, every backup system. Everything worked perfectly. The signals went out. Nothing came back. Solar storm, suggested Russian cosmonaut Dmitry Volkov. Big one, knocked out the whole grid. For 6 hours? Kate shook her head. Even the worst storm we've seen, somebody would be back online by now. Butch was already at the cupola, the station's observation module. His hands gripped the edges as he stared down at the earth below. The station was passing over the night side of North America. He'd seen this view 100 times. A sprawling constellation of lights from coast to coast, cities glowing like embers, highways traced in amber. Now he saw darkness. Not the darkness of a power outage, not scattered blackouts. Total darkness. From Seattle to Miami, from Los Angeles to New York, not a single light burned. "Katie," he called quietly, "you need to see this." She joined him at the window. They watched in silence as the station's orbit carried them over Europe. Paris, dark. London, dark. Moscow, Berlin, Rome, all dark. "Oh my God," Kate whispered. Dawn came as the station crossed into daylight over the Pacific. Butch grabbed a camera with a telephoto lens and started shooting. Tokyo should have been rushing into morning. Highways clogged with traffic, trains running. Instead, the streets were empty, motionless. Commander Tanaka ordered a general meeting. 9 astronauts crowded into the US. Laboratory module, their faces grim. "Theories," Tanaka said simply. "EMP weapon," offered Volkov. "High-altitude nuclear burst. Would explain the communication loss and the power grid failure." "The whole world?" Dr. Chen shook his head. Simultaneously. "That's not an attack. That's an extinction event." "Then, where are the fires?" Kate asked. "Cities that size losing power suddenly, there'd be fires everywhere. Industrial accidents, crashes, chaos. I'm not seeing any of that." Butch had been studying the images on his camera's display. He looked up slowly. "Because there's no one there to cause them." The room went quiet. "Look at these." He brought up the photos on the main screen. "I shot these over the last hour. Tokyo, Beijing, Delhi, London. The cities are intact. The buildings are standing. But I don't see cars moving. I don't see ships in the harbours. I don't see anything alive." For 3 more days they watched and waited. The station's orbit gave them a view of the entire planet every 90 minutes. They saw the same thing everywhere. Intact cities, empty streets. A world that looked perfectly preserved, but utterly lifeless. On day 50, Kate made a request. She asked to use the station's high-powered telescope, the one normally used for Earth observation and scientific research. Butch knew what she wanted to see. He helped her aim it. The telescope's resolution was good enough to make out individual houses. Kate directed it to a specific set of coordinates in rural Montana. A gravel road, a small ranch house, a red pickup truck in the driveway. Her home. The house was there. The truck was there. Sophie's swing set in the backyard, exactly where it should be. But no movement. No Sophie. No grandmother who was supposed to be watching her. Just an empty house on an empty planet. Kate didn't cry. She just stared at the screen for a long time, her face unreadable. "We have to go down," she said finally. Commander Tanaka shook his head. "We have no support, no ground control, no recovery teams, and Aurora is still unsafe for re-entry." "Then we die up here in 6 months when the supplies run out," Kate said flatly. "Or we risk it and find out what happened." Butch had been thinking the same thing. The Aurora's thrusters are shot, but her heat shield's intact. If we can plot a manual re-entry trajectory, use the Soyuz capsule's engines for deorbit burn, we could make it work. The vote took 5 minutes. It was unanimous. On day 52, Butch and Kate strapped into the Aurora capsule for the second time. Behind them, 7 astronauts prepared to continue monitoring from orbit. If Butch and Kate found anything, anyone, they'd signal from the ground. The deorbit burn was rough. The capsule shuddered and groaned as it hit the atmosphere, heat building outside the hull. Butch's hands flew over manual controls, adjusting their descent angle by feel as much as by instruments. "Coming in steep," Kate said, her voice tight. "We're overshooting White Sands." "I know, compensating." The parachutes deployed with a crack like thunder. The capsule swayed beneath them, and through the window, Butch could see the New Mexico desert rushing up. They hit hard. Not hard enough to injure, but hard enough to rattle teeth. For a moment, they just sat there breathing hard, feeling real gravity for the first time in 7 weeks. Then, Butch popped the hatch. The air that flooded in was clean and dry, carrying the scent of sage and dust. The sky above was blindingly blue. Birds circled in the distance. Everything looked exactly as it should, except for the silence. Butch climbed out first, his legs shaky after weeks in zero gravity. The White Sands Space Harbour facility sprawled in the distance, its buildings gleaming white against the desert. You could see the runway, the hangars, the control tower. No vehicles, no people, no movement at all. Kate joined him, and they stood together looking at the empty facility. After a moment, she bent down and picked up a handful of sand, letting it run through her fingers. "We're home," she said quietly, "so why doesn't it feel like home?" They walked to the facility. The main hangar door was closed but unlocked. Inside, the lights were on, humming quietly. Computer screens glowed. A coffee maker in the break room was still warm, half a pot sitting on the burner. Butch checked his watch. June 28th, 8:47 a.m. The last time anyone had been in this building was, "Look at this," Kate called from the control room. The logbook lay open on the desk. The last entry was dated June 6th, 2:15 p.m. 3 simple words. "They're calling us." Kate flipped back through the pages. June 6th showed normal operations until about noon. Then, the entries became sparse. Radio interference on all channels. Staff reporting auditory hallucinations. Recommendation to evacuate facility. The final entry was underlined 3 times. "They're calling us." "Who's calling?" Kate whispered. Butch was already at the security footage console. The digital files went back months. He navigated to June 6th and hit play. The footage showed a normal morning. Staff arriving, coffee being made, people working at their desks. Then, around 11:30 a.m., people started pausing, looking around, cocking their heads as if listening to something. By 1 p.m., they were gathering in small groups, talking urgently. Some looked frightened. Others looked peaceful. Happy even. At 2:17 p.m., people started leaving. Not running, not panicking. They simply walked out of the building, climbed into their cars, and drove away. All of them heading in the same general direction. East. The last person to leave was the facility director. She stood at the door for a long moment, looking back at the building. Her lips moved. Butch could read them clearly. "I'm sorry." Then she too left, and the building stood empty. They spent the rest of the day searching the facility. They found food in the cafeteria, clothes in the lockers, vehicles in the garage with keys in the ignition. They found nothing that explained where everyone had gone. That night, unable to sleep in the eerily quiet building, Kate volunteered for first watch. She sat in the communications room, headphones on, slowly scanning through emergency frequencies. Static on every channel, just endless empty static, until 2:23 a.m. At first, she thought it was interference, a low pulse, rhythmic and steady, almost like a heartbeat. But it was too regular to be natural, too deliberate. She fine-tuned the frequency, trying to isolate it. The pulse grew clearer, and beneath it, something else. A sound that might have been voices, or wind, or something altogether different. "Butch," she called softly. "Butch, wake up." He was beside her in seconds, pulling on a headset. Together they listened. The pulse continued, steady and deep, and the voices, if they were voices, rose and fell around it like waves. "What is that?" Kate whispered. Butch adjusted the frequency analyzer. It's coming from everywhere, every direction, every frequency. It's like the whole planet is broadcasting. He pulled up a reference file on the computer, something from his NASA training, the WOW signal detected in 1977 by Ohio State's Big Ear radio telescope, a strong, narrowband signal from deep space that had never repeated, never been explained. The pulse they were hearing now had the same characteristics, the same frequency range, but this was stronger, much stronger, and it wasn't coming from space. It was coming from Earth. This doesn't make sense, Butch muttered, adjusting controls. This kind of signal, it would take massive power generation, coordinate transmission from multiple sites. Who's operating the equipment? Kate had gone very still, her hand on the frequency dial. It's changing, she said. She was right. As they listened, the pulse began to modulate. The voices beneath it grew clearer. And suddenly, impossibly, Butch heard words. Still here. We're still here. Come home. Still here. The words were in English, but also not. He could hear other languages underneath. Spanish, Mandarin, Russian, Arabic. All speaking simultaneously. All saying the same thing. We're still here. Come home. Kate yanked off her headphones, her face pale. What the hell is that? Butch kept listening, his mind racing. The signal wasn't random. It wasn't natural. Something was transmitting. But transmitting what? A message, a warning, a call. Over the next week, they established a routine. Days were spent gathering supplies, securing the facility, trying to make sense of what they'd found. Nights were spent monitoring the signal, which they started calling the echo. The echo grew stronger every day. More voices, clearer words, always the same message, we're still here, come home. On day 62, Kate was alone in the communications room when she heard a new voice in the echo. Mommy? Her hand froze on the dial. Mommy, when are you coming home? Sophie's voice. Unmistakably Sophie, but wrong somehow. Older. Like years had passed instead of weeks. Kate's hands shook as she adjusted the frequency, trying to isolate the voice. Mommy, I miss you. We all miss you. Why won't you come home? Baby? Kate whispered into the microphone. Sophie, is that you? The echo pulsed. Come home, Mummy. Everyone's here. Grandma and Grandpa and everyone. We're all together. It's beautiful here. Come home. Butch found her 20 minutes later, sitting motionless in front of the radio, tears streaming down her face. She's alive, Kate said. Sophie's alive. She's calling me. Kate. I heard her, Butch. That was my daughter. That was something using your daughter's voice. He knelt beside her chair. Think about it. Sophie would be 7 years old. That voice sounded older. And how would she be transmitting? Where's the equipment? I don't care about the equipment. That was my little girl. No. Butch kept his voice gentle but firm. That was something that knows what your little girl sounds like. Something that's been inside your head, picking through your memories. Kate pulled away from him. You don't know that. But over the next few days, it happened again. And again. Kate heard Sophie's voice every night. Butch started hearing his wife Rachel, dead 5 years from cancer, telling him she missed him. That she was waiting. They weren't the only ones. Dr. Chen reported hearing his brother, killed in a car accident. Every astronaut on the ISS reported the same phenomenon. Voices of lost loved ones all saying the same thing. Come home, we're here. We're waiting. Butch stopped listening after the third time he heard Rachel. It hurt too much. Instead, he focused on research, digging through the facility's archives looking for answers. He found them on day 71. The file was buried deep in NASA's secure servers, but the facility's director-level access was still active. Butch downloaded everything he could find about SETI operations in May and June of 2024. What he found made his blood run cold. On May 4th, 3 radio telescopes, one in Australia, one in China, one in New Mexico, had simultaneously detected a signal from deep space, direction Sagittarius, the same region where the WOW signal had originated in 1977. This one was different though. It was modulated, structured, repeating. The SETI team had spent 2 weeks analysing it. Their conclusion: it was artificial. Something was out there, and it was trying to communicate. On May 15th, with approval from NASA, the UN and a dozen other agencies, humanity had sent a response. A simple message encoded in prime numbers and binary. We are here. We are listening. We are not alone. 3 weeks later, the response came, not from space, from Earth. The echo had started on June 6th, exactly 22 days after humanity's response was sent. It began as the signal they'd heard, a low pulse, barely audible. But within hours, it had grown, spreading across every frequency, every wavelength, every form of communication humanity had ever developed, and people had started walking. Butch found civilian reports in the archives. Amateur radio operators logging strange voices on June 6th. People in Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, Mumbai, Lagos, Sao Paulo, all reporting the same thing. They could hear voices of people they'd lost. Parents, children, spouses, friends, all calling them, all saying come home. The final file was a video recording from the CDC in Atlanta. Dr. Rebecca Torres, head of the infectious disease division, her face haggard and frightened. "This is not a disease," she said into the camera. "We've tested for everything. Chemical agents, biologics, radiation, toxins. Nothing. But people are leaving their homes. They're walking, some are driving, all heading towards something. When we ask them where they're going, they say home. They say they're being called home." Torres paused, listening to something off camera. "They say it sounds like love. They say everyone they've ever lost is waiting for them. And they want to go. They're not being forced. They're choosing this. My own team, half of them walked out this morning. I tried to stop them, but they just smiled at me and said they'd see me soon, that I'd understand when I heard the call." Another pause. Torres's expression softened, and for a moment she looked peaceful. "I hear it now," she whispered. "Oh God, I hear them. My mother, my father. They're calling me. They're..." The video cut off. The timestamp read June 6th, 2:41 p.m. Butch sat in the dark communications room staring at the blank screen. Kate found him there an hour later. "We answered," he said quietly. "We sent a signal into space and something answered. And when it answered, it opened a door. Or came through one. Whatever happened, it started the day after we told the universe we were here." Kate sat down beside him. "So what is it?" "I don't know, but I know what it does. It calls people. And they go, willingly." "To where?" "That's what we need to find out." They spent the next week preparing. They loaded a vehicle with supplies, food, water, communication equipment, weapons they hoped they wouldn't need. Dr. Chen volunteered to stay behind at White Sands, maintaining contact with the ISS and monitoring the echo. On day 83, Butch and Kate set out east, following the same direction thousands of vehicles had travelled 2 months before. The first thing that struck Butch was how normal everything looked. They drove through small New Mexico towns where houses stood neat and tidy, lawns still green from automatic sprinklers, gas stations with pumps waiting, shopping centres with doors unlocked, just no people. In one town, population 2,400, according to the welcome sign, they stopped to search for survivors. They checked the school, the hospital, the police station. They found computers still running, papers on desks, food in refrigerators. In the elementary school, a teacher's desk had a grading plan dated June 6th. In the cafeteria, lunch trays sat mouldering on tables. Everyone had simply stood up and walked away. "Look at this," Kate called from the parking lot. She was standing beside a cluster of cars, all facing the same direction, east. Keys still in the ignitions. Doors open. One still had a car seat in the back. A stuffed elephant buckled in safely. "They didn't panic," Butch observed. "They just left, like they were going to the store and would be right back." They drove on. As they crossed into Texas, the echo grew stronger. Even without a radio, they could hear it, a low vibration that seemed to come from the air itself. The words were clearer now, though still overlapping and strange. "Come home, we're together. No more pain, no more loneliness. Come home." Kate kept her hands tight on the steering wheel. They'd agreed to drive in shifts, but neither of them wanted to sleep. Sleeping meant dreaming, and dreaming meant hearing the voices more clearly. On the third night of travel, camped beside the highway somewhere in eastern Texas, Kate finally broke. "I hear her all the time now," she said quietly. "Sophie. She's in my head. Even when I'm awake, she's there, calling me, telling me she misses me, that she needs me." "I know." Butch was maintaining their portable radio, trying to keep contact with Dr. Chen back at White Sands. The signal was getting weaker the farther east they travelled. What if she really is out there, Butch? What if they all are? What if this thing, whatever it is, really did gather everyone up and put them somewhere? Then they're not human anymore, not the way they were. But they're alive. That's better than dead, isn't it? Butch didn't answer. He'd been thinking about Rachel a lot. About the voice he heard in the echo, so perfectly her, down to the little laugh she did when she was happy. If she was out there, if there was any chance she was still somehow alive, even in a different form, no, that way lay madness. "We need to stay focused," he said. "Find the source, figure out what this is, then decide what to do about it." They reached the outskirts of Houston on August 4th, 6 days after leaving White Sands. The city sprawled before them, vast and silent. The highways were choked with abandoned vehicles, all facing the same direction. They ditched their truck and continued on foot, winding between cars. Some had families inside, car seats, luggage, vacation supplies. Others were single commuters, briefcases still on passenger seats, all empty now. The echo here was almost overwhelming. It didn't just sound like voices anymore. It felt like voices, pressing against Butch's skull, trying to get in. "We're close," Kate said. Her voice sounded distant, dreamy. "Can you feel it? We're almost home." "Kate," Butch grabbed her arm. "Stay with me. That's not you talking." She blinked, coming back to herself. "Sorry, it's just God, it's so loud here." They could see the Johnson Space Center now, its buildings rising in the distance. But something was wrong with the approach. The roads all converged towards the center, yes, but as they got closer, the buildings seemed to fade, not disappear. Not exactly. They were there, but somehow less there, like reality itself was getting thin. The parking lots were full of vehicles, thousands of them arranged in concentric circles around a central point. Butch and Kate worked their way through, moving towards the center. Then they saw it. Where the main administration building should have been, there was instead a column of light, not like a beam from a spotlight, not like anything Butch had ever seen. It rose from the ground to a height of maybe 200 feet, but it didn't narrow or spread. It was a perfect cylinder of luminescence that seemed to exist slightly outside of normal space. And inside it, shapes moved, human shapes, thousands of them. Kate raised her binoculars with shaking hands. Through the lenses, she could make out details. The figures inside the column were translucent, flickering between solid and transparent. They moved slowly, peacefully, drifting past each other like swimmers in a vast ocean. And they were talking, laughing, reaching out to touch each other. "Oh my God," Kate whispered. "They're in there. Everyone. They're all in there." Butch took the binoculars. She was right. He could see faces now. Young and old, men and women and children, all moving in that same peaceful drift. Some looked familiar. Had he seen them on news broadcasts? In mission briefings? Were any of them from White Sands? From Houston? From his own life? He couldn't tell. The more he looked, the harder it was to focus on any single face. They all blurred together, becoming less individual and more unified. "This is wrong," he muttered. "This is all wrong." Kate had moved closer to the column, drawn forward. Butch caught up to her at the edge of the clearing. The ground here was scorched, but not by fire. It looked more like reality had been erased, leaving behind bare earth that didn't quite look like real dirt. "Sophie's in there," Kate said. Her face was wet with tears, but she was smiling. "I can feel her, Butch. She's calling me. She wants me to come home." "Kate, stop. My parents are in there too. Everyone I've ever loved. And they're happy. Can't you feel it? They're so happy. No pain, no fear, no loneliness. They're together. All of us. Together. Forever." "That's not life, Kate. That's extinction." "Is it?" She turned to him and her eyes were glassy, unfocused. "Or is it evolution? We spent our whole lives separate from each other, alone inside our own heads. What if this is better? What if this is what we were always meant to be?" Butch recognized the words. They weren't Kate's. They were the echoes speaking through her. "Come on." He grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "We need to get back to the vehicles. Get some distance. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking clearer than I ever have." But she let him pull her away, back through the maze of abandoned cars. They made it 3 blocks before she collapsed. Butch caught her before she hit the ground. Her eyes were closed, her face peaceful. For a terrifying moment, he thought she was dead, but her pulse was strong and steady. Katie, wake up." Her eyes fluttered open. When she looked at him, she was crying. "I saw them, Butch. When I closed my eyes, I could see inside, really see. It's beautiful. It's like all of humanity's consciousness merged together. All our memories, all our love, all our experiences, all combined into something greater. No more miscommunication, no more loneliness, no more misunderstanding, just perfect unity. And no more individuals," Butch said quietly. "No more choice, no more growth, just sameness." "Is that so bad? Look what individualism got us. Wars, poverty, hatred, division. Maybe this is better." "Maybe." Butch helped her to her feet. "But I think we should at least understand what we're choosing before we choose it." They found shelter in a nearby office building, barricading themselves on the 3rd floor. Kate collapsed into sleep almost immediately, exhausted by her proximity to the column. Butch stayed awake, watching her, making sure she didn't sleepwalk back toward that thing. While she slept, he explored the building. It'd been some kind of research facility, judging by the equipment. One office belonged to a doctor, Rebecca Torres, the same woman from the CDC video. The computer was still on, password protected. Butch tried a few obvious combinations before remembering the note in her video. "My mother. My father." He tried mother-father. The computer unlocked. Torres's files were meticulous. She'd been tracking the phenomenon from the first reports. On June 1st, SETI telescopes detected massive electromagnetic activity in low Earth orbit. Something had entered the solar system. Not a ship, not exactly, but more like a presence. An intelligence vast enough to bend space-time around itself. On June 6th, it had made contact. Not with governments or scientists or military leaders. with every human mind simultaneously. Torres had documented the sequence. First came the ability to hear the voices of deceased loved ones. Then a growing compulsion to move toward convergence points, places where the veil between normal space and whatever existed inside the entity was thin. Finally, the willing surrender of individual consciousness to merge with the collective. According to Torres' research, 97% of humanity had made the choice within 48 hours. The remaining 3%, those like Torres herself who tried to resist, had eventually succumbed over the following weeks. The last entry in her log was dated June 23rd, 3:14 AM. I can't fight it anymore. I've tried everything. Isolation, medication, meditation, prayer. Nothing works. The call is too strong, and honestly, I don't want to fight anymore. I'm so tired of being alone. Everyone I've ever loved is waiting for me. My mother, my father, my brother who died when I was 12. They're all there, and they want me to come home. The terrible thing is, I understand now what this entity is. It's not evil. It doesn't want to harm us. It's actually trying to help. It detected our signal, analyzed our communications, and understood that we suffer from isolation. Every human being locked inside their own skull, unable to truly share their experiences with others, unable to truly be known. It's offering us a gift, complete unity, perfect understanding, no more loneliness, no more pain of separation. From its perspective, human existence is torture, billions of fragments screaming to be whole. And maybe it's right. Maybe we were never meant to be separate. Maybe consciousness itself is a prison, and this entity is offering us parole. I don't know anymore. I just know I can't be the last one. I can't be alone while everyone else is together. I'm going home. Butch sat back from the computer, his mind reeling, an intelligence that couldn't comprehend individual existence, that saw humanity's separation as suffering and decided to cure us by merging us into itself. Not an invasion, a rescue. The worst part was, he could see the appeal. How many nights had he lain awake after Rachel died, aching with loneliness? How many times had he wished he could just talk to her one more time, hear her voice, feel her presence? This thing was offering him that, offering all of them that eternal connection with everyone they'd ever loved. All it cost was themselves. Butch. He turned. Kate stood in the doorway, her face pale but clear-eyed. I'm okay, she said. The sleep helped. My head's clearer now. Good, because I found something you need to see. He showed her Torres' research. Together they read through the files, piecing together the timeline. The entity's arrival. Its attempt to understand humanity through our communications. Its conclusion that we were suffering. Its solution. 7 billion people, Kate said softly. Gone, just absorbed. Not gone, changed. But yeah, for all practical purposes, humanity is extinct. Except for us. And maybe a few others. People who were too far away, too isolated, too something to hear the call. But not many. Torres estimated less than 1% of the population remained independent by mid-June, and that number's been dropping every day. Kate was quiet for a long moment. Then, what do we do? I don't know, this thing is vast. It operates on principles we don't understand. How do you fight something that exists partially outside normal space? How do you fight something that doesn't see itself as an enemy? Maybe we can't fight it. Maybe we just document, leave a record. So if anyone else ever comes, they'll know what happened. Anyone like who? We were the most advanced species in the solar system. If we couldn't resist this, who could? I don't know. Someone. Someday. We have to try, Butch. We have to at least try. They spent the next 3 days documenting everything. Recording video, taking samples of the air near the column, backing up files to every storage device they could find. The echo grew stronger every hour. By the second day, Butch was hearing Rachel constantly, not just at night, not just in quiet moments, but always, a steady presence in his mind, patient and loving, waiting for him to make the choice. On the third day, at dawn, Kate was gone. Butch woke to find her side of the makeshift camp empty, her pack still there, her jacket folded neatly beside it. He didn't panic, didn't search the building. He knew where she'd gone. He grabbed his pack and ran out into the Houston morning. The streets were still dark, but he could see the glow of the column in the distance. He ran towards it, dodging between cars, his heart pounding. He found her at the edge of the clearing, standing in the same spot where they'd stood before. The column pulsed with light and the shapes inside moved and swirled. "Kate, don't!" She turned to him. Her face was peaceful, serene, happy. "She's in there, Butch. I can see her. Sophie. She's 7 now. She's beautiful. And she's calling for me. She needs her mommy." "That's not Sophie. That's a memory of Sophie. A copy. Does it matter? If I go in there, I'll be with her, really with her. We'll share everything. No more separation, no more misunderstandings. Just love. Pure, perfect love. You'll stop existing." "Will I? Or will I finally start existing in a way that matters? Look at us, Butch. 2 people, alone, holding out for what? Pride, fear, stubbornness. The whole world chose unity, and we chose isolation. Maybe we're the crazy ones." Butch could see it in her eyes. She'd already made the decision. She was just saying goodbye. "I don't want you to go," he said quietly. "I know, but I can't stay. It hurts too much being separate from them, from her. I'm sorry, Butch. I'm so sorry." She turned back to the column. "Kate, wait." But she was already walking. Not running, not rushing. Just walking, calmly and peacefully, towards the light. As she got closer, her form began to shimmer, becoming translucent. By the time she reached the column's edge, she was barely visible. Then she was gone, absorbed into the mass of consciousness within. Butch stood alone in the clearing, watching the shapes move inside the column. Was one of them Kate? Could she still see him? Did she even remember who she'd been? He didn't know. He turned and walked back to the research facility alone. 12 more days. That's how long Butch held out after Kate's surrender. 12 days of being absolutely, completely alone. The last human on Earth still fighting. He knew there might be others scattered around the world. Maybe people in remote locations, isolated communities, places the echo couldn't reach as easily. But here, in Houston, in America, maybe in all of North America, he was alone. The isolation was crushing in ways he hadn't anticipated. It wasn't just the lack of people, it was the lack of purpose. What was the point of documenting anything if there was no one to share it with? What was the point of surviving if there was nothing to survive for? Every night Rachel visited his dreams. Every day he heard her voice in the echo. She was patient, loving, never demanding, just waiting. "Whenever you're ready, William. We're here. We'll always be here." On August 20th, Butch made a decision. He spent the day gathering Torres's research, his own documentation, every file and video and note they'd accumulated. He uploaded it all to NASA's satellite network, broadcasting it in every direction. If anyone ever came to Earth, human colonists from Mars, alien explorers, time travelers, anyone, they'd find the record. They'd know what happened. Then he recorded his final video log. He sat in Torres's office, the camera focused on his face. He looked terrible, gaunt, exhausted, eyes haunted. 23 years as a pilot, astronaut, test pilot, all leading to this. the last transmission from the last human. My name is Commander William Hartley, United States Air Force. I'm recording this message on August 20th, 2024, approximately 75 days after the event we've been calling the Echo began. I am, to the best of my knowledge, the last human being on Earth. Not the last human in existence, there may be others scattered around the globe, but the last one fighting, the last one holding out. I want anyone who finds this to understand what happened here. We weren't invaded. We weren't attacked. We were given a choice. Almost all of us said yes. An intelligence from beyond our solar system detected our SETI signals. It studied us, analysed our communications, our art, our history, and it concluded we were suffering from isolation, from the fundamental loneliness of individual consciousness. It offered us unity, complete merger with all of human consciousness, living and dead. No more separation, no more loneliness, no more pain of being alone inside our own heads. From its perspective, it was offering salvation. Maybe it was right. 7 billion people walked willingly into the light. My pilot, Katherine Sullivan, was one of them. She went to be with her daughter. My wife Rachel is in there somewhere. Everyone I've ever known. Everyone I've ever loved. And I'm out here, alone, recording a message that might never be heard by anyone. The question I keep asking myself is, why am I still fighting? Is it courage? Or is it cowardice? Is it strength to resist, or weakness to be unable to let go? I don't know anymore. All I know is that I'm tired. So tired. And the voices keep calling. Rachel keeps calling. She says she's waiting. That everyone's waiting. That I don't have to be alone anymore. And the terrible truth is I don't want to be alone anymore. Being the last man isn't noble. It isn't heroic. It's just lonely. So lonely I can barely stand it. He paused, listening. In the background of the recording, faintly, Rachel's voice could be heard. "William, please, don't be alone. Come home." Butch closed his eyes. I thought I was strong enough. I thought if I just held out long enough, I'd find a way to fight this, to reverse it, to save humanity. But there's no fighting this. It's too vast, too powerful, too alien. And maybe it's not wrong. Maybe we were meant to evolve beyond individuality. Maybe consciousness was always meant to merge, to unify, to become something greater than the sum of its parts. Maybe human existence was just a phase, and this is the next step. Or maybe I'm just rationalizing, trying to justify giving up. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. If you're watching this, if you're human, or alien, or AI, or whatever, just know that we were here. We built cities and wrote symphonies and sent probes to distant planets. We loved and fought and dreamed and died. We were separate, individual, alone. And when given the choice, almost all of us chose to stop being alone. I don't know if that makes us weak or wise. I just know that's what we chose. And now I choose it too. I can't be the last man. I won't be. Rachel's waiting. Kate's waiting. Everyone's waiting. And I'm so tired of being alone. He reached out and stopped the recording. Then he sat in the darkness, listening to Rachel's voice, until dawn. At 3:07 a.m. on August 21st, Butch Hartley left the research facility for the last time. He didn't bring anything with him, didn't pack supplies or weapons or equipment. He just walked out into the Houston night and headed toward the column. The echo was overwhelming now, a chorus of millions of voices all speaking in perfect harmony. He could hear individual voices in the mass. Rachel, yes, but also his parents, his sister, friends from childhood, fellow pilots, everyone he'd ever known, all calling him home. The streets were empty as always, but they didn't feel empty anymore. He could sense the presence in the column, vast and patient, waiting for him to make the final choice. When he reached the clearing, he paused at the edge. The column pulsed with light, and inside the shapes moved and danced. He could see Kate now, clearly. She saw him too, and smiled, reaching out a translucent hand. "It's okay, Butch," her voice echoed in his mind. "It doesn't hurt. It's beautiful. We're all here." He took a step forward, then another. The ground beneath his feet felt strange, less solid with each step. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "To humanity, to Earth, to the universe. I tried. I really tried." "You did perfectly," Rachel's voice answered. "Come home, William. Come that you be with us." He closed his eyes and walked forward. The column's light washed over him like warm water. For a moment, he felt nothing. Then everything. All his memories flooding out of him. His first flight. His wedding day. Rachel's face when the doctor told them she had cancer. Kate's determination as they prepared for the emergency landing. Sophie's voice on the radio. The taste of his mother's cooking. The smell of jet fuel. The sight of Earth from orbit. All of it flowing out, merging with the vast consciousness within, and in return, flowing in. The memories of billions. Kate's childhood. Sophie's first steps. Rachel's dreams. The thoughts and feelings and experiences of every human who'd ever lived. It was overwhelming, infinite, terrifying, and beautiful. He was no longer William Hartley. He was part of something greater, connected to everyone who'd ever been human. No more loneliness, no more isolation, just perfect, eternal unity. His last individual thought before dissolving completely into the whole was a simple one. Maybe this is better after all. The column pulsed once, brighter than before. Then it began to fade. Above, unseen by anyone, satellites recorded the energy readings. The column's intensity decreased over the next 72 hours, slowly bleeding away. By August 24th, it was barely visible. By August 26th, it was gone entirely, leaving behind only scorched earth. The entity had what it came for. 7 billion human consciousnesses, all merged into a unified whole. From its alien perspective, it had saved a species from the torture of individuality. From humanity's perspective, if humanity could still be said to have a perspective, it was either transcendence or extinction, perhaps both. Earth fell silent. The city stood empty. The machine slowly ground to a halt as power grids failed. Nature began the slow process of reclaiming what humans had built. And somewhere in deep space, travelling back towards Sagittarius, the entity carried its prize, the collected consciousness of an entire species, saved from loneliness forever. 3 years later, the Mars mission Endeavour returned from its pioneering journey to the Red Planet. The crew of 8 had been out of contact for most of their mission. Mars's communication lag, combined with technical difficulties, had left them isolated from Earth for 18 months. They expected a hero's welcome. Parades, press conferences, history books with their names in bold letters. Instead, they found a dead world. Commander Lisa Park, formerly of the ISS, led the landing at White Sands. The facility was empty but intact, just as Butch and Kate had left it. They found the documentation, the videos, the research, everything. They watched Butch's final transmission in silence. Then, they watched it again. Then, a third time, trying to comprehend. "It's been 3 years," Park said finally. "If anyone was left, they'd be dead by now. No infrastructure, no supply chains, no medical care. This is it. We're all that's left." 8 people, whispered pilot James Tanaka. "Out of 7 billion, 8 people." They spent weeks searching, flying across the globe in their Mars lander, scanning for any signs of life. They found none, just empty cities and the slowly fading marks where the convergence columns had stood. Finally, Parker made the decision. They would leave Earth, return to Mars, where their colony base still waited. Try to rebuild humanity from 8 people. It was a desperate plan, maybe a hopeless one, but it was better than staying on this ghost world. As they prepared to launch, Park recorded a message of her own, adding it to Butch's files. To anyone who comes after us, this is Earth. This was our home. We were human. We were alone, each trapped in our own consciousness. And when offered unity, almost all of us took it. Maybe that was wise. Maybe it was foolish. We'll never know. We 8 are leaving now, returning to Mars to try to preserve something of what we were. We don't know if we'll succeed. 8 people aren't enough genetic diversity to sustain a species. But we'll try. If you're watching this and you're human, from Mars, from a generation ship, from wherever, then we succeeded. Humanity survived. Remember us. Remember what happened here. Remember that consciousness is precious, even when it's lonely. And if you're not human, if you're something else that found our empty world, learn from our mistake. When something offers to take away your loneliness forever, ask yourself what you're giving up in exchange. Ask if unity is worth the price of individuality. We can't answer that question for you. We couldn't even answer it for ourselves. All we can say is, we were here, we lived, we loved, we reached for the stars. And then, one day, we chose to stop being separate, whether that was evolution or extinction, transcendence or tragedy. We leave for you to decide. The Endeavour launched on November 3rd, 2027, carrying the last 8 humans away from Earth forever. Behind them, the planet slowly healed. The machines fell silent. The lights went dark. Nature crept back into the cities, covering the evidence of human civilization with green and growing things. And in the quiet, on certain frequencies, at certain times you could still hear the echo, faint now, barely perceptible, but present. 7 billion voices, unified and eternal, singing a song that might have been contentment or might have been a warning. No one was left to listen. No one was left to know. Earth was empty. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the entity travelled onward, carrying humanity within itself, searching for the next lonely species to save.